Hello everybody, my name is Erik Teren Mullins, and today we're going to be checking out a figure made by Good Smile Arts Shanghai from the video game Azur Lane. This is Owari. In her original costume, this character is a 1/7 figure, and next to other figures of similar sizing, I say she scales very well. If you'd like to see a short unboxing to this figure along with how to attach the Haori onto her or swap her extra face, be sure to check the link in the description down below. Now before I get into all the hardcore details of this figure and all of her beautiful clothing and anatomy, quick disclaimer. There are all sorts of different anime figures out there, and the fact that they can be so spicy in their design, it goes with the culture. However, there's quite the line, I'd say, between it being a spicy figure or an X-rated figure. Just because a figure is not sporting a lot of clothing doesn't necessarily make it X-rated, especially when the theme and the focal point would be large, crazy hands, cute face, massive poof of hair, and even the pose showing off isn't as spicy as it could have been. So it's all about the sculpt and designer's intent. Where you can have something that is clearly spicy, it's not necessarily going to be X-rated due to that. Sometimes there are elements designed into a figure that really screams cuteness, and that will overcome the level of spiciness, and sometimes there are design choices that will make a figure just slightly edge over to being that X-rated. Other times, designers don't even care and they just go all in. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Gundam Ariel, with your thick thighs and your cute poses. They knew exactly what they were doing when they invented her design. So spicy. There are even moments where just the concept of suggestion is far more than the actual act of showing in itself. She's invisible. You don't see anything. The one thing you definitely don't see are undergarments, because she's clearly not wearing any. And with that choker, this figure's just so spicy. But she's invisible, so most people looking at this won't even think about that aspect. For today's figure review, I'm giving you that warning that it is not for younger audiences. This is a mature figure. It's what you're not currently seeing that's so extremely spicy that I would put this in really the not safe for work category, unless you decide to put on her Haori, where all of a sudden this figure, while still being quite spicy, doesn't go over that limit. Her skirt is really short and they show off quite a lot. We're going to get into that later in the review. But before we do, there's just one more thing I absolutely have to mention, and that's if you like this video just a little bit, it doesn't cost much to hit that like, hit that subscribe, and why not the notification bell? This way you'll be notified of future videos, and comments always help too. If you're a huge fan of Owari, write it down. Tell me why you like her so much. I'm definitely going to gush over this figure quite a bit during my final thoughts, but for right now, what is it that you like about Owari the most? And if not, who's your favorite Azur Lane gal? Personally, mine is Perseus, but Owari is a very close third. Almost second, I just really like Formidable. I'm a huge fan of Kinkora's art style, what can I say? And speaking of art styles, Owari is done by Dishwasher 1910. She did a fantastic job, and the sculptor and colorist really did a great job at mimicking Owari's energy that you get from her initial illustration. The smaller base plate that she comes with is a little dark brown one. It's hollowed out underneath with two metallic pegs that go through and into her feet. Her feet go in there pretty well, I'd say. It holds her nicely, doesn't ever feel like she's gonna fall over. I'm surprisingly happier with it than I thought I'd be. It's a really good size that encompasses her nicely, and I can really fit her in any kind of shelving unit because of that. The base is also quite reflective, which is pretty fun for some of you that like that sort of spicier aspect to it, especially considering that this base is pretty much designed and made for her without the giant Haori, so everything here is really at its spiciest fighting potential. Oddly enough, I love the idea of making it a dark brown over a black, because black is pretty much used in every simplistic base, but her shoes are a similar dark brown. Having a reflective brown base go into a lovely semi-gloss reflective shoe is frustrating because it doesn't really make the figure pop out as much as she should. The shoes themselves are done with a lovely mat where it looks like the foot goes into them very nicely. We've got a couple of stretches and folds in the fabrics for the shoes, the way that they're bent in, and these fun little paler gold chains along the front. We get a line going all the way up her stockings. It's nicely indented, along with the stocking motif that we have, crisscrossing very well around her nicely shaded and highlighted legs. These legs are sculpted to perfection with their anatomy. Everything comes off as so elegant, where we get to the first tighter elastic looking band that's done using a similar brown and semi-gloss to the bottom of her shoes. Her skin then bevels out of this and goes into now a leather band that's actually attached with a nice little buckle. The level of detail here is really good for something so small. And between these two bands, we get a lovely mesh print. Would I have liked something that was more three-dimensional? I don't know. I really do think that from a distance it looks good, and it really does look very anime illustration. Of course, in 3D it would have been pretty hardcore. I'm just glad they didn't go with real material for this, because I think it would have clashed with the rest of her design unless they put real material everywhere. Not a huge fan of real material on specific things. I don't find it's always done exceptionally well, so if you can't do it really well, it's best just to avoid it altogether. After following her beautiful, long, dainty legs, we then get another beveling around the center of her thigh, and this is very beveled as we slowly go up into her hips. We get a gorgeous level of shading on her skin. Everything seems quite soft as we slowly turn her around. Okay, this is where things get pretty hardcore, people, so you've been warned. Her behind is extremely well done as she sports quite the small, tight G-string that is way up there. And that tag team with her ahegao face is just absolutely very, very X-rated. I'd say she's the most adult figure I own just because of that. Then again, maybe not. The shaping and anatomy of her body here is extremely carefully sculpted, where we have all sorts of beveling and pushing inning. We have all sorts of... How am I gonna navigate this? I'm usually such a PG-friendly talker while I let the images do the X-rated stuff. This is not easy. With how tight and high her underpants are riding up, her skin is just beveled very well. You could tell the sculptor put a lot of extra care into this figure's body. The underpants themselves are done with a darker gray where we get a tiny little bit of stretches in the fabric, but it's not particularly noticeable considering how small and tight everything is. Gosh. Moving up from there, finally she has a little bit of clothing. This skirt, which keeps her ever so warm, I'm guessing. Why is it that this half-naked, extremely spicy figure feels less X-rated than Owari? I'd say the face definitely works in Owari's favor for that spice, but it's just unbelievable. This should be more X-rated than this, but it just doesn't feel that way. You know, during the holiday seasons or quite possibly your birthday, some people are just into the packaging a little bit more than they are with the gift that's inside. In this case, I could say that both of these are epic. So if you're a person that loves beautiful packaging, but at the same time, you really like the gift inside, this is the gift that keeps on giving. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. Next part. This extremely short, hiked up skirt has beautiful pleats in it, nice shading. The white little printed line going around isn't always perfect, but it's not bad either, especially from seen from a shelf. The sculpt work on top of the actual pleats put in are phenomenal. Really, really good. And it makes her whole skirt seem incredibly thin in material because it really bevels in and slides into every nook and cranny of her body. Even the skirt screams NSFW. She then has this lovely little belt going around her waist to really tighten everything up and give her that perfect hourglass shape that we know and love from our beautiful Owari. Nicely sculpted, little bit of shading. In the middle, we get a gorgeous bow with lighter gold outlining and this amazing Sakura Empire, almost looks like a button belt buckle of sorts. It's so cute, and I really love it as a design. You can see her shirt coming out a bit from the bottom of it, the way it cuts open. Nice little line work that we have around here, where everything goes up into her chest. And what a chest. She's really got a lot going on here. But before we get into that, let's just talk about the clothing a bit. The way the sculptor made everything open up and we have multiple layers is fantastic. You can actually see the work they put on in the inside of the shirt because it's visible due to how large her chest is. There are lovely folds and stretches in the fabric as they go up into the tighter part near the top. We have this cute little button with a beautiful little diamond design that connects into this rope, leathery wiring system that goes around her body. This thing looks pretty good. We have some gold rivets here and there, a beautiful design in the center of her chest, as everything kind of sways and droops all the way into the back, and it's done in a really lovely manner where it looks like these leather pieces are folding in or connecting into one another as if the clothing were real. And this is impressive because most figures won't go that distance. It'll just, everything will connect, and that'll be that. While on the subject of her back, it is expertly sculpted. Beautiful, strong, defining line for her spine, where we get lovely darker shading underneath her shoulder blades as we go up into her shoulders that look really cute, delicate, but still quite sturdy. And you can see all sorts of the back side end of her chest because it is just so incredibly large. And I have other figures that have really large chests. It's just the whole packaging to this figure really does an excellent job at showing off every little detail in a way that just feels so much spicier than seeing the whole thing itself. Her chest is large, very well sculpted. I'd say it's nicely positioned too. Sometimes when you have figures with larger chests, they can always have a weirder shape to them. Something doesn't look as natural despite it being very unnatural or supernatural. She is somewhat of a robot boat demon girl after all. And a quick side note, usually Azur Lane characters are based off of old school World War II boats. Owari, however, is based off of a concept design to a boat that never made its way into production. It's not the first time Azur Lane does this, it won't be the last, and they've certainly done their rounds with most existing boats. Back on topic, I have to point this out because my wife brought it up, and more than once, so here it is. Her chest and the way she's leaning over is very intense, to the point where it actually looks really similar to her behind, which is also kind of pointing downwards with the way the skirt is shown off. Basically, if you're more into the chest or the behind, you're going to be happy with this one because you kind of get 2 for 1 here. I probably should edit that one out. As we go up into her collarbone, it's the perfect amount of not too subtle and still sharp so that you can see it. And then her lovely shoulders go into her arms, as most characters do. These arms are actually removable, so you're able to put on her Haori. Once again, you can see all of this in my unboxing review, link in the description. The way they did it is they made it so that the band along the top comes out further than the peg that's in the inside. So when you fit it into the arm, it hides the fact that there's a seam line there. It doesn't sound like much, but this is the sort of professionalism I love to see in a sculpt, especially one that they know that comes apart. Thank you so much. This is awesome. The rest of her arms are very well sculpted with beautiful material printing. There's no real texture here, but from a distance it does look really good. Even up close, I'd say it looks nice. I just would have liked maybe it to be a little more three-dimensional. This will get hidden if you decide to put the Haori on her anyway. Her hands are beautifully sculpted, very small, cute. I might almost say they're a little too small, but it does help create the illusion that her frame is a little bit smaller, and due to her incredible hourglass curvy shape, it seems less on point. She's wearing a gorgeous neck collar with a beautiful Sakura Empire logo on it, more of that lovely light metallic gold. Her headpiece can actually pop out here, but they did the same trick that they did for the arms. Not that noticeable, which is great. And because of the odd way that they have her being able to swap her face, essentially the face is connected to the neck and you have to pull the head out, remove the hair pieces. I do it in my short. Go check it out if you want to see what it's like. Due to how it's constructed, when you look underneath her chin, everything here is perfect. You don't have some weird, awkward seam line, which is a really impressive way to do this. Her ear comes off at a decent size, a little bit sharp in its angles. I love how she's wearing one single earring on her left side and how it matches up with the little button down near her top. Her ahegao power is over 9,000 here, and I'd say it's very expertly done. Everything is soft and super round, which is something that really gravitates me towards Owari because I just love cute round faces, and she really has a good one. Her mouth is open where we get a decent amount of depth going inwards, and the tongue with a hypergloss is just perfection. I love the little mole on her chin, and the overall sculpting of her face is a perfect anime shaping. It's so cute. Tiny sharp nose. I'm going to remove her top hairpiece here just so I can talk about both eyes together, though her right eye is genuinely hidden behind her hair with both faceplates. They're super nice. I like that they make them almost a little bit cross-eyed because that goes with the whole ahegao aesthetic. The eyebrows here are soft and give her facial features a bit more of that passive demeanor. They put hearts in the center of these decals. The actual eyeball is quite reflective while the eyelashes are a little less, and I really like that. Meanwhile, her alternate facial features are just my favorite. Don't get me wrong, the ahegao look is gorgeous and very well achieved to go with the rest of her super spice look, but the face where she's got that smile and the eyes, and they put the hypergloss on the lips this time around, it just looks so cute. We have some lovely rounded cheekbones. This is the kind of cute round perfection I look for in my figures and their faces, and I'm extremely happy with this one. There's a lot of matte on this figure. It's fun that we get a couple of metallics here and there. That really help break things up. We get very little use of gloss, and that's okay too because of the overall design. But her hair is matte, it has some shading, not so much highlights, and I would have liked to see that anime shine here or there just to make things pop a little bit more. Despite that, the sculpt work is really nice, and the way that these pieces attach together around her head do a pretty excellent job at hiding the seams. You can see it here and there, and of course when you're looking at the top, but it does feel like it's just a different section off plastic for her hair design, as you would get when you're drawing an illustration where somebody has bangs or anything like that. As we look at the back of her hair, everything is beautifully sculpted, lovely waves, as her twin tails are braided out in a lovely manner, going down into these tiny little connection pieces that are done using a semi-gloss, where everything ends with these poofs of her hair at the end. Based off of looking at the initial illustration, it really does look like that's supposed to be her hair. It works if you don't know that. You might think that it's tassels of some sort, and it looks okay, but it just feels like they didn't put a lot of work in the sculpt here either. There's not really any sharper lines. Everything's softer and rounder, and that flat cut underneath, that should have picked out to have a bit more texture for the end parts of her hair. And the way that it hangs down over her chest, they could have maybe given the hair just a little bit more of a bend, so everything would have been pulled down by the gravity a little more. But with the way that she's posed and the movement you're kind of getting from her, you could debate that these hair pieces are actually just flowing out a little, and that's why the gravity's not pulling it down completely. And finally, on your base figure, we come up to the horns. I'm a huge fan of Monster Girls, and this definitely gives her a bit more of that Monster Girl aesthetic. You don't get it anywhere else. It's really just there, but I like the idea that her horns aren't just like your standard stereotypical ones, little spikes or anything like that. Like, they actually have a shaping to them. Kind of makes me think of like maybe a Christmas Krampus, antelope, deer of some sorts. And the fact that we have adornments on them makes it even better because it shows personality. How many humans do you see walking around with a whole bunch of rings or multiple piercings? It's cool to think that if you had a tail or if you had horns or anything of that like, that you would either tattoo them or you would put jewelry or accessories on them, because why not? That's part of who you are, and I think it's really cute. If you opted to get the larger version of this figure, you got a couple of added accessories, one being this super soft epic base. It's hollowed out underneath, nice and soft at the top, and you can see there's little pieces of it flying everywhere. As long as you're not using it as a frisbee, you should be fine. It is rather big, and let's say you want to take up less space with her like this. You can actually use this for other figures. There are so many figures that either don't come with a base or that have atrociously disgusting ones, and so you could just opt out of using that and put your figure on this one. Another option is because you have all that negative space, why not put extra accessories you might have lying around? I had this random letter opener that I gotten from the game Sekiro, and it just so happened to look really pretty laid out in front of her. Heck, I even tried putting that sword along her back to see if she could hold on to it. She kind of does, but the slightest breeze will definitely make that thing go flying off. The Haori is thick. It's got this weight to it that while you have it on her, it's heavy. It's really leaning on her backside along with her shoulders and her arms that are pegged in there. We get a beautiful pearlized white for the inner material, some lovely stretches and folds in the fabric here along with some shading, and that's just on the inside. As we get to the outside, we have these super cute little Sakura Empire cherry blossoms, and I love the way they sculpted this just natural fold along the top that makes it feel like the material is just opening up. That's really pretty, and it allows you to get to see her back very nicely. The darker material then covering over that has a whole bunch of illustrated prints that were put over the shading. On the one hand, I love how it's gold and everything pops out. On the second hand, they put some shading and highlights on the actual dress here that aren't reflected on the print. So the print is just one monotone color, despite us seeing a darker shading going into some of the grooves. From a distance, it allows you to see everything, and you can make the complaint that you're going to have all this shading through natural lighting anyway. Everything flows so nicely as it goes up into this warm, thick knitted sweater to keep her behind warm, because of course it'd be freezing cold. This thing is nicely sculpted. We get a little bit of shading here, though I find that it is kind of bland. Should have perhaps put a light wash going all through it so that some of this detail could just pop a tiny little bit. We get this bump near the middle back section, and of course that's where her behind is pressing up against it. When it comes to Owari's behind, they thought of that design. That rhymes. And that rhymed. Upon her spicy release, Owari here was going for 21,818 yen, which is actually really well priced for the level of quality that you're getting here and all the accessories and interchangeable head, like the extra base, the whole thing. If you opted to get her without this piece, because of course she has so much going on, and some of you out there are just thinking, why would you even want to cover that up? We all have our own personal tastes, and some of us have living situations where we don't necessarily want something that's too X-rated, but we love the character so much, and she looks absolutely gorgeous with this thing on. To each their own. She's roughly 4,000 yen cheaper without all of this. 4,000 yen, you can get all this extra stuff? With everything that we're getting here, that seems like a really good deal to me. I had a lot to say about this figure today, and hopefully some of you managed to stick around to the end to watch this without having to shut your phone down and go hide while you're at work. Maybe you're at home in your basement just hoping your mom's not gonna walk in at just the worst possible moment. But looking at Owari's face, you just know she wants to cause you trouble. So spicy. As far as character designs go for a bunch of anime and video games in general, Owari is definitely borderline one of my favorite. I love the over spiciness of her and the fact that there's so many tongue-in-cheek elements to her personality. Hair looks absolutely gorgeous. I'm a big fan of twin tails, especially when they're braided like this. Makes me think of Cammy, and Cammy's like, how do I not have a Cammy anime figure? And I like Owari so much, in fact, that I did pre-order that other Owari figure. However, when they released this one up for pre-order, I didn't go after it because it's 1/6 and it's just too big. I have no place to put something like that, even though I would have loved to have the whole collection of her and all her alternate costumes. That larger one's not even going to fit in most people's shelving units, let alone mine, and I think it might even be too heavy if you're going to have something on glass, so I unfortunately had to pass on her. But that negativity aside, this figure, I had a lot of positive things to say. She's just really well made. Hopefully my review today helped you decide which side of the fence you're on in getting her or not. Is she too spicy for you? Will you be getting her with the Haori? You want to get the full Owari experience? Write so in the comment section down below, because who doesn't want to sit here talking about Owari all day? Have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye! She might not have the Ahegao face on her, but I would say this is the figure I have that's the closest to the super spice that is just exuding from Owari. This Rei Ayanami by Kotobukiya is crazy hardcore with all the suggestive designs on this. And just looking at how these two are grail figures of mine, I love them. They're on my top 5 list of forever. They clearly always have to have the most lewdest, spiciest designs for clothing in their bodies. You can probably tell that I'm kind of into super cute round faces. I just love them ever so much.